Hey folks, Mr. Finley here, and I'm afraid I've got some bad news. You're being manipulated. Every single day, you are bombarded with literally hundreds of different advertising messages. These are on television, obviously, but those aren't the only ones. In print, online, in the scroll of your Facebook page, between videos on YouTube, hundreds of advertising messages reach you each day, and each of these messages is crafted with one purpose: to manipulate you into doing what the advertisers want, to buy their product. I don't like being manipulated, personally, and so the best way to find a way to get beyond this is to figure out what techniques these advertisers use. So that's what we're going to be doing for this unit. The first thing to realize is that advertising is everywhere around us. You look at all the logos on this screen, and I'm sure you recognize pretty much all of them, which is kind of amazing, given that most of them don't even have any words on them. Just the images are so embedded into our brains. And that's because by some studies, we see about 250 advertisements a day. We actually see more than that, between 2,000 and 5,000. But in terms of what our brains actually recognize and comprehend, the number is about 250 a day, which means that by the time you're 15, you will have been exposed to 1 million advertising messages. Now, advertising affects us both consciously and subconsciously, and that's really the troubling part. Conscious advertising is more or less fine, right? There are car commercials giving us information about how the car works, its miles per gallon. This is information that we can use consciously. But advertisements don't just work on a conscious level. They don't just give you information about the product. Instead, they very subtly try to manipulate you into feeling that you need this product, and they use various subconscious tools to do that. And this is a big deal because so many of us in America are exposed to so much advertising. Society itself, since 1950, when advertising really took off with the advent of the television, society itself has become shaped by this. Americans become less satisfied with their lives because there are advertisers constantly telling us that we are not satisfied because we need to buy their product in order to be satisfied. And you see this in the statistics. On average, Americans shop 6 hours a week and spend only 40 minutes playing with their children in that time. Now that's an average, of course, but it does suggest where our overall priorities are as a country. And in 1997, 1.1 million Americans declared bankruptcy from all of their various purchases, which was more than graduated from college in that year. So these are some disturbing numbers. And it's not that we need all of that stuff. It's that we are being told that we need all of that stuff by the advertisements, the million advertisements that we are bathed with. So here's how they do it, and here's how we can understand those tools and use them ourselves if we want to, but also how we can avoid them, similarly to how we looked at rhetoric earlier on in the year. So, in order to get us to buy something, we have to believe that we need it. And so a psychologist by the name of Abraham Maslow came up with a hierarchy, that is a list of various needs that all human beings have. And advertisers identify those needs and then craft messages to suggest that their product will fulfill them. And you see the needs there as a sort of pyramid, and it's always drawn that way because each level of needs builds on the one below it. So basically, you can't address the needs at the top until you've addressed the needs at the bottom. So the 5 basic levels of needs, and there are some versions of this hierarchy that go into more depth and sometimes break it up into 8 levels, but very basically, the 5 levels of needs, the most basic one is physiological needs. That's what your body needs. So, food and water and sleep and, breathing. These are things that your body needs. They're physiological needs, and until you've addressed those, you can't address anything else. Doesn't matter if you are loved and rich and well taken care of and have great morality if you are starving to death. So your brain won't let you take care of the other needs until your basic physiological needs are taken care of. The next level of needs up is for safety. This is security not only for yourself, do I have a house, do I have a job, but also for your family. Is my family healthy? All these things. So this is safety. First we deal with physiological needs, then we deal with safety needs. And if you don't have those needs taken care of, you can't really build on these other needs. Beyond the need for safety is the need for love and belonging. So we need family, we need friends, we need people around us. That's assuming we've got safety and physiological needs taken care of. On top of that, and this is one that advertisers often hit, is the need for esteem. We need to be respected by others, the need to have confidence, the need to feel achievement. A lot of advertisers really hit on this level. And then the highest level is what we call the self-actualization or the transcendent needs. These are the things that ideally, if everything else is taken care of, we spend our life trying to do. And these things are the need to create, the need to be spontaneous, the need to solve problems, all of these sort of high-level things that we get to and that give us fulfillment when we've got the other stuff, when we feel confident, when we've got family and friends, when we feel secure, and we've got our basic physical needs taken care of. So those are the 5 levels of different needs. And advertisers use this. They choose 1 or 2 of these levels, and they create a message that we're lacking somehow in one of these, that we're not really as safe as we think, or actually, if we really want esteem, then we'll go for their product. And they craft a message that suggests that that product is going to fulfill one of those needs. So how do they craft this message? Most advertising uses some variation on something called Monroes motivated sequence. Monroe was an advertiser, studier of advertising in the 20s and the 30s actually, and he came up with this sequence that is very similar to the structure we talked about in rhetoric to get a customer to feel that they have a need and that their product can solve it. So there are 5 steps here. First, you've got to get the customer's attention. And you do that either with flashy images or music or something that is eye-catching, a hook. Then you need to suggest that they have a need or a problem. Hey, your car is really old. Shouldn't you get a new one? Or you need to take care of your family, and our diapers will be the best way to do that. Oftentimes, the suggestion of the need or the problem is very subtle. This idea that somewhere out there people are having more fun than you, or somewhere out there people are living a better life than you are. So that need can sometimes be portrayed very subtly, but once you've got the customer's attention, you suggest that there is a need in their life. And then they show how that particular product satisfies that need. Your car is old. Hey, we've got new cars cheap. You want to protect your family. Well, our diapers are the best for your baby. Or there's this sense that people are having fun somewhere out in their world. Well, if you drink our particular brand of beer, look at all the people on our commercial who are having that fun life. And that leads on to this next step, the look at part of it, to visualize the product and the problem being solved, to show images of how that particular product meets that particular need. And then finally, there's a call to action, just like we talked about in rhetoric. The last thing is always to leave the consumer with an impetus to go out and buy this thing, and to give them information about how to do that. The call now at the end of a advertisement to purchase something on television. So those are the steps: to get the attention, to point out or suggest a need or problem, to show the product satisfies the need, then to visualize that product and problem being solved, and then the call to action at the end. Now, in order to do these things, especially the step of suggesting that there is a need, advertisers turn to a lot of what we call propaganda tricks to insert this need into our head, and here are some of them. Each of these tricks has a name, and there's a lot of them, and I think as we go through this list, you are going to to recognize the sort of things that you've heard advertisers say. So, and many of these are in sort of pairs. One sort of message gets to one kind of customer, one sort of message gets to the other kind of customer. So some people are attracted to the avant-garde, which means, the front guard of a physical attack, like in a war. So an avant-garde message suggests that the product will put the user ahead of the time. So, be the first on your block to own snarky blocks. That suggests that these people are right at the very front, and they're going to beat everyone to that. Because some people like that. Other people don't want to be out front, but they do want to be part of the crowd. So the bandwagon approach suggests that everybody is already using the product. Like, all your friends use snarky blocks, shouldn't you? Which suggests that if they want to fulfill that need of being part of a community and being accepted, that's part of Maslow's hierarchy, that they really need to use this product. Other people are really moved by facts and figures, some sort of data that makes the product seem valuable to them. The interesting thing is that data can be manipulated in a lot of ways, and it's really easy to choose data that supports your conclusions while hiding data that doesn't. So you should always, question what data you find in advertising. Laboratory tests prove snarky blocks 75% snarkier than the competitor. Well, sure, but who's the competitor? And is being 75% snarkier something that you really want? Another sort of advertising preys on hidden fears and suggests that the product will protect someone from danger. The sort of, ask yourself, will your children be safe without snarky blocks? We see lots of advertisements, have little babies and little children running around with the implication that if you don't buy these antibacterial soaps or that sort of thing, they will get sick and they will die, and wouldn't that be horrible? Another sort of trick that is used is what we call flag waving, and this suggests that buying the product shows love of country, because many people are patriotic and want to support their country, and so by linking the product with that sense of patriotism, even if the product has nothing to do with patriotism, it makes people think, well, I ought to buy that. So, snarky blocks proudly made in the USA. Making us think that, well, I'm supporting the USA if I buy snarky blocks, which may have nothing to do with the United States. Oh, look, there's even more tricks. These two are another pair. What we call the plain folks approach suggests that the product is practical and of good value for ordinary people, that it's something that is useful and not excessive. It's not a luxury. So snarky blocks, just like Grandma used to make, and it ties these senses of being down to earth and being rational and reasonable and honest and fair, those type of properties to the product, which again may have nothing to actually do with the product. The opposite of that, if you're trying to appeal to a different sort of audience, is what we call snob appeal, and that suggests that the product is part of an elite, luxurious lifestyle. In the finest restaurants, they serve only snarky blocks. So many people, and you see a lot of this sort of advertising nowadays, many people want to think of themselves as being part of an elite, part of a luxurious lifestyle. And they may not actually be able to purchase the things that would put them into that type of lifestyle. But if they see in a commercial people who belong to that lifestyle, people drinking champagne and wearing high fashions who happen to be using this product, then subliminally it suggests, well, I can't get the rest of that. I can't buy the bottles of champagne, but I could at least buy snarky blocks. And that gets us to move in that direction through the snob appeal type of ploy. Both of those are variations on this next concept, which is transfer, which is basically it uses concepts that have positive connotations to suggest the product itself has those qualities. So it's like putting a picture of your product next to a picture of a adorable cat or a smiling baby. Your product may have nothing to do with the adorable cat or the smiling baby, but by putting them next to one another there, you are subconsciously suggesting that those same good qualities from the cat or the baby belong to your product as well. So, we believe in truth, beauty and snarky blocks. Again, they have nothing to do with the product, but just by putting them next to one another, you transfer some of those positive connotations over. Prestige identification is a fancy word for a testimonial from someone famous. So using a famous personality to endorse the product. I'm Sir Isaac Newton, and snarky blocks is my favorite. We see this. It's Olympic times now. Olympic athletes make a lot of money from their endorsements because we want to say, oh, I want to be like Michael Phelps or some other gold medal winner. What are the products that they use? Now, we may not think that consciously to ourselves, because I think consciously we would agree that just using the same sort of shampoo that Michael Phelps uses doesn't make us an Olympic swimmer. But subconsciously, we certainly move in that direction. And finally, one more trick that they use, and this is less of a trick, but it's something we do see a lot in advertisements today, especially online advertisements like YouTube advertisements, and that is wit and humor, making the commercial witty or funny. And then that entertains the audience with humor, and that associates the product with that entertainment. This has been a trend in commercials, especially within the last 5 to 10 years, and you see them a lot online. Commercials that don't necessarily have much to do with the product itself, but they make you laugh or they make you giggle, and then they introduce the product, and again your subconscious ties that laughter, that humor from the commercial to the product. It's a sort of transfer. So those are some of the techniques that are used by advertisers to suggest that there is a need and to suggest that their problem fills that need as part of Monroes' motivated sequence, building on the needs from Maslow's hierarchy of needs to convince you that you need stuff, and that their product is the thing that you need. And slowly that has been shaping our country into a group of consumers who may feel they need things that, practically speaking, they may not actually need. So now that you know the tools, you can be aware of them and on the lookout for them, just as you are in rhetoric from other sources.